Like we can run the table. I really do. I think.
All right, hi everybody, and welcome to Run the Table, the first of many, hopefully, in a YouTube series here. I'm your host, Eric Cohen, and this is my co-host, Zach Hahn. It's good to be here, Zach.
Yeah, I'm really excited to start talking about the Packers. We've been following for ever since we were kids.
Little kids, the Brett Favre days.
Yeah.
And we've been talking about this for a while, that we wanted to do a little series here. We got together, we watched the film. It was a tough film to watch from the Eagles game, but we watched it and we're here to talk about it.
Yeah, I think after a tough loss, it's going to be tough to watch the film just to relive the moments that I don't like seeing again, but now we can talk about them and try to analyze them a little bit more.
Absolutely. What were your sort of early thoughts, just thoughts of the game last week?
I think our offense started clicking a little bit more. It's kind of obvious we don't have a wide receiver too, but Davante went off. He had a career high 180 yards in a game. He was doing great, and then of course many injuries. We had Jamal go down early. That was awful. Hate to see that, of course, on any side.
You've got to think it's a different end of the game if you've got Jamal and Davante. Just on that last
the 1
series.
yard line. Several times we were on the 1 yard line. We have our big Jamal Williams. He pushes the pile. But
yeah, and as we all know, the Packers lost to the Eagles 34-27. The Packers had two opportunities right there at the end of the game to score that tying touchdown. Who knows what happens in overtime? But you bring up some good points. We didn't really have a wide receiver number two. I mean, Jimmy Graham had 6 catches for 61 yards. Geronimo Allison had 3 catches for 52.
pretty close.
MVS, I mean, Rodgers did spread the ball around. I think all 3 tight ends caught at least a ball. Danny Vitale caught a ball. But, once Davante went out, it just seemed like...
Yeah.
Who was that go-to guy? I think that would have made a big difference at the end of the game.
Yeah, I like that you bring up Vitale because another thing, I'm not a head coach, but I don't know why we don't use him more in the 1 yard line.
I will say, I read this today that Danny Vitale had 1 carry in that game. That was his first NFL carry ever. And he had 2 catches. He's always been a receiving fullback and a blocking fullback, but he had never carried the ball. So maybe something going forward that they wanted to, just get him exposed and they trusted the other guys a little bit more.
Yeah.
But I wanted it.
Yeah,
you wanted it.
No,
Sure. Every Packers fan sitting out there was probably saying, run the ball. What's interesting, so especially at the end, they ran 6 plays on that first red zone possession. We had a pass to Jimmy Graham, and then the pass interference against Lazard, and that gave us a new set of downs. And we did call a run, that keeper that Rodgers, could have given it to Aaron Jones, but then he pulled it and had to immediately throw it away. LaFleur did call a run option in there. And then on the second attempt, that first 5-yard run was a run. But I would have loved to see him try to pound it in a little bit more.
For sure. Again, Jamal Williams being out really hurt us there, and Davante at the end of the game being out, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Could have made a difference.
The stat was the Eagles went to the red zone 5 times and scored 5 touchdowns. The Packers went to the red zone 7 times, which is remarkable.
Yeah.
And scored 3 touchdowns. And to me, that was the biggest, factor in the game. They were able to punch it in every single time. I think a little bit, like I say, I think we all would have liked to see just another run attempt somewhere in one of those possessions. But they were stopping a run game, to the Eagles' credit.
Oh, for sure.
We just looked this up before filming this. Aaron Jones, 13 carries, 21 yards.
That's not typical Aaron Jones for sure.
Yeah. You wanted to talk a little bit more about the injuries and the second wide receiver emerging or not emerging, the lack of.
Yeah. I mean, Allison, MVS have flashes of being that wide receiver 2 for us, but I think they have a little bit more time to develop before they can actually fill that role. Devontae going down, as you saw, like it really, even we were already there in the red zone when he went down pretty much, and we still couldn't finish it off. I don't know if it has 100% to do with Devontae, but also definitely Jamal. But yeah, let's flip the field and go in defense now. So you were talking about how the Eagles had a crazy good run defense. I think it's a little bit different for the Packers.
Yeah, we got run all over. Let's see the stats. Jordan Howard had 15 carries for 87 yards for 5.8 yards per carry. And Sanders, their rookie, 11 carries, 72 yards for 6.5. So we were giving up 6 yards a carry against them.
Can't win a game like that.
And even more so, I mean, it seemed like they ran this concept 11 times during the game where they'd have 4 wide receivers, spread out and just one of those running backs in the backfield. So they'd get us in our nickel or our dime formation, and they'd do just this little quick handoff, and then Wentz would keep it and just throw a little slant or a little kind of a shallow post route and just pick on the middle of the field. And it was either 6-yard run or 12-yard pass. And it was just Blake Martinez, kind of in coverage there. And he was coming up to stop the run, and they'd throw it. When he was kind of back against the pass, they'd run it. And it just seems like, they guessed right every play, and we guessed wrong every play.
Yeah, when we were rewatching the game, we had the announcers still talking, and it was just like, and over the middle, and over the middle, and over the middle. It's like, man, are they going to stop this over the middle slant like you were talking about? It's just a play action, over the middle, play action, over the middle.
And Jair had a great game. Kevin King had a really good game.
Kevin King, I love that man. He was great. He was breaking up passes all game.
Awesome. And so they really didn't pick on our corners there. Ertz, if you look at their wide receiver stats, so Alshon Jeffrey, 3 receptions for 38 yards. Jordan Howard, 3 receptions for 28 yards. And nobody else. They had Goddard, the tight end, had 2 receptions for 16, and then one other wide receiver at 13 yards. All of those guys had basically the same production as Zach Ertz, who had 7 receptions for 65 yards.
Yeah.
All in all, Carson Wentz only had 160 passing yards. I mean, our statistically, our passing defense was pretty good.
Yeah.
I think part of that's the short field. They had the big kickoff return. They had the turnover. Okay, so we started the game well. It was 10-0. We were shutting them down, and then they had 3 drives in a row that were short field. It looked like Ertz was matched up against Adrian Amos for most of the game. Really good start to the season for him. Again, it looked like Ertz got the best of him a little bit.
Definitely a mismatch.
But the one touchdown to Goddard was against Will Redmond. I think they picked on our safeties a little bit. But I think our corners had a good game. And it was just that middle of the field with Blake Martinez trying to stop the run, getting caught up in play action, and the safeties just kind of getting beat one-on-one.
For sure. And that's another thing with injuries. We lost Raven Green in the beginning of the season, and he's definitely been our nickel, come in, help against the run, help those matchups, and Redmond just not really able to fill that same role.
And he's injured now too. He had a concussion in the game. I will say Matt LaFleur was asked about Oren Burks in his last press conference, and he said, hopefully sooner rather than later. I think that's a big key for me, because other than Blake Martinez, I mean, B.J. Goodson, how do you feel about him? He
had a really good hit that last game. It made me like him a little bit more, but
he got on your good side with that one.
I loved it. It was great. He hit Howard. He's been running all over us all game, but that hit wasn't enough to win us the game, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I think I don't have a ton of confidence right now with BJ Goodson. One, because we don't know him. He's still new. He's probably still learning the playbook. He's still probably got a limited set of packages. The reality is Pettine likes to be in that dime look where there's only one true inside linebacker on the field, and Raven Green comes up. Now what we've been doing is Adrian Amos comes up, and they put another safety, Will Redmond, in the back. Amos, again, got really matched up on Ertz. I think in the Broncos game and the Vikings game, Amos coming up into the box, he was allowed to do a lot of different things. And I think this time he was pretty locked into Ertz, and that kind of took him away from some of his other responsibilities. Ibrahim Campbell, he did well for us at the end of last year. He's a Pettine guy through and through, but he's still got 6 weeks on the PUP list. We might have to go another game without Oren Burks or without, and now the Will Redmond. I mean, if he's not cleared, I guess we're playing Josh Jackson in there.
Yeah, and Josh Jackson, I was really big on him last year. I really wanted to see him flourish. Unfortunately, he hasn't really done that yet. But we played Traymon at safety a lot last year, so hopefully we move Traymon back. Josh can go into his natural role of corner. See how that works out, and maybe he can get a few more reps, get some more development.
Yeah, and I think they'd like to keep Tramon Williams at corner, but certainly a possibility. Move him to safety in those packages.
Yeah, he's got more experience there than Josh Jackson would have.
Right. What about running back depth for the injuries? I mean, Aaron Jones, we get a long weekend here, so we have some time to get fresh. You would think Jamal Williams is probably going to miss a game.
He might, yeah.
He's home, he's
most
safe.
Likely, but
but he could miss some time.
Yeah.
And so that means Dexter Williams, who hasn't been active for a game yet. I mean, I know we all want Vitale. I do too. I love the fullback,
Yeah.
I think that's a Green Bay thing with Kuhn and back to William Henderson in the Favre days.
Yeah.
He was always, I loved when he got the ball. And even Ripkowski was kind of like a little bit of a legend there. We love our fullbacks in Green Bay.
For sure.
But Dexter Williams, this is his time to shine. Running backs, you're going to play them all over the course of a season. You never go through a season. No team goes from start to finish with one or two guys. I mean, you're going to get some reps there.
For sure. Even if it's one or two a game, but when things unfortunately happen, like that big hit, that dirty hit on Jamal Williams, then you got to put in your other guys, and we didn't have another guy that time.
This will be a big week for Dexter Williams.
Yeah, I think so.
For sure.
He can prove himself.
Maybe we'll look into that a little bit more for our next, our upcoming look against Dallas, as we'll go back and maybe look at some of Dexter Williams' preseason carries and see what he could bring to the table. So I think he's going to have a role. Even in the Denver game, Aaron Jones had 15 carries, Jamal Williams had 13, or vice versa. I mean, they're giving that second running back carries in the game. We threw all over the Eagles. We knew we were going to do that. They've got the second best run defense and the second worst pass defense. Dallas, we might have a little bit more of a balanced attack against them. I know the thing on everybody's mind, of course, is pass interference. I want to say really quickly, I think after watching the game, as heartbreaking as some of those calls were, especially that last play, the Eagles, they played a good game. I don't want to get in the habit of saying, oh, but that last play could have been different, even though it could have been. Because I do think the Eagles won that game, but I know you were fuming, Zach. I mean, tell me about your thoughts.
No, my initial reaction, of course, I was very upset. It was, to me, blatant pass interference. Again, I'm not a referee or anything, but it seemed like a lot of people agreed that it was definitely pass interference, and they purposely put in this new rule to be able to challenge pass interference this year for this reason. But since it's under 2 minutes, the booth had to review it. So I don't understand why that wasn't reviewed, or they didn't really talk about it. It seemed just so quick that they were just on the field kneeling it, like super quick. Maybe I just have a little bit of bias because, of course, I don't ever want to see Aaron Rodgers throw an interception. But yeah, it was pretty sad. But after it took a little took a little time, calmed down, and I was like, sure, that was the last play of the game, but that's not why we lost. There was, tons of plays right before that, or not right before that, throughout the whole game that we could have improved on. We could have been better here. We could have ran the ball. I don't know. It's just the pass interference no calls. They suck and they're heartbreaking, but that's not why we lost.
And it seemed like the refs were letting them play a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, you think of the Kevin King, Alshon Jeffrey goes up and Kevin King just comes flying in and he kind of smacks his arm a little bit. That could have been called, so it looked like they were letting him play a little bit. Matt LaFleur said it in his interview. He said, I don't know what pass interference is. It's sort of like the new catch rule, where I think, actually the catch rule, it seems like we've gotten a little bit more consistent on. It seems like with this pass interference stuff, it's going to be all over the place at the beginning of the season, and I think the goal is to get it more consistent. I wish they would have reviewed it. I mean, the defender did get there first, and he wrapped his arms, around the top. And the question is, was he hugging him to restrict his arms, which it looked like, or did he just kind of put his arms around there and block the ball? I mean, how much, of a restriction was there? The other thing with that play, obviously, is both of the defenders converge on MVS, and you do have Shepard, who looks like he's going to be open for a corner route. It's tough to say because Rodgers threw the ball so quickly that, the reason they converged is because Rodgers immediately kind of went to that throw.
Mm-hmm.
But it's definitely a heartbreaking end. When you lose, you like to lose clean. And it always sucks when there's some controversy. And, again, who would have known? Now that's first and goal on the 1 yard line, pass interference.
For sure.
I mean, maybe then you run it, but it's first and goal on the 1.
Yeah. I don't know, man. Yeah, it's tough. But it's definitely something they've been working on. I think, like you said, with the catch rule, something that just over time is going to have to get better. Same thing with last year. The big rule change was the roughing the passer.
Yeah.
And that, again, in the beginning of the season, hurt us a lot.
And a controversial one in this game, too. Kenny Clark had the big passer. We were watching the film, and he came flying across. And that was one that extended a drive for Philadelphia.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the reality of the NFL right now. I think penalties all season. We haven't been as clean a team as we would have liked to have been. But it's still early. We meant to start the show this way. If to all you Packers fans out there, to everyone freaking out, there's all this doom and gloom, and I mean, you can look on websites and blogs and inboxes all over the place, and people are freaking out. If you would have said the Packers are going to go at Chicago, they're going to play the Minnesota Vikings, and then they're going to have a short week against the Eagles, okay, who pretty recently won a Super Bowl. And they're going to finish the stretch with the Broncos too. They're going to finish the stretch 3-1 without any major injuries. Would you take it?
Yeah.
I would take it.
I take that every day.
I know we don't know Devontae, Jamal, and Brian Bulaga. We didn't talk about. He hurt his shoulder. We don't know how serious that is, but there's no torn ACLs out for the year. Kevin King's been staying healthy. We're pretty healthy, and we're 3-1 after the first quarter of the season.
Yeah.
And I think that's a positive start. That's an optimistic start with a rookie head coach.
For sure. Oh yeah. Definitely.
The defense, as bad as their run defense was in this last game, this is the best defense we've had in a while.
For sure.
So I'm feeling optimistic. I guess what are your overall thoughts on the quarter poll of the season? That was fast. We were 25% of the way through the season, which is weird to say.
It is.
What are your overall thoughts? Maybe just the strengths and the weaknesses of this team.
Strengths, definitely the O-line. I really like. Rodgers got sacked one time last game.
One time.
It's because of a bad block by a tight end.
That's true. There was no offensive lineman on there. That was Mercedes Lewis, one-on-one, which it seems like LaFleur's done a lot of in the Broncos game, it was like Jimmy Graham on Von
Yeah.
Miller one-on-one. I know Mercedes is supposed to be a good blocker, but he was one-on-one against Barnett, who made the amazing play in the Super Bowl as well. So, but sorry for interrupting. Yeah. So
No, yeah.
O-line's been your strength.
Yeah, I really like the O-line. I like our pass rushers. They've been pretty good. Last game, not so much. Wentz was just getting it out there real quick. Their run game was really good. 2 good ways to stop the pass rush. But in general, I like our defense in general. Pretty much everyone. Things I don't like, passing the ball at the 1. No. But things I don't like, definitely our run defense last game. We've talked about it. I'm not going to dwell on it. And then the injuries so far. I mean, it hasn't been bad as in recent years, but I hate to see injuries anywhere. It's always hurts when you're like, oh, this guy could have been out there and things could have been different, but you don't know.
Yeah, for me, I think the strength of this team is it does seem like there's some balance. It seems like we've got playmakers who can run the ball, people who can catch the ball. The offensive line's played all right. I do like our defenders both in the front 7 and the secondary. I think we have a lot of pieces and a lot of talent in place. And conversely, I think the weakness is the depth. I don't know how deep this team is. Wide receiver is something you mentioned. If Davante Adams has to miss some time here, I mean, people are going to have to step up. Jimmy Graham is going to have to step up big time. Geronimo Allison's going to have to step up. MVS, I mean, they're good complementary guys, but what if they have to be the guy? Yeah. Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams looked like they were really getting into it, and then you lose Jamal Williams and Aaron Jones doesn't get the job done.
Right.
Brian Bulaga, offensive line's been great, but we lost Lane Taylor for the season. Now what if Bulaga has to miss some time? So I'm a little concerned with the depth. Certainly on the defensive side, you saw it in the secondary. Raven Green goes down. We have kind of struggled to replace him, and then Will Redmond goes out, and it's just kind of hard to stop him. So I think the team has a lot of talent, but your depth will be tested over the course of the season. Real quick, we haven't talked about special teams at all today. Another kickoff return. I think that's 2 weeks in a row that we have let a big one up. The Broncos busted one against us, and the Eagles did as well. We got to get that corrected.
Yeah. When you see your kicker having to make a play, I mean, Crosby's always been good at making those plays, but you don't want him to, right? Like, for several reasons. You don't want him to get injured, and you don't want the ball at our own 20 or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Another thing, didn't he kick the ball out of bounds?
He did. He had that was another short drive. So yeah. I think there was the turnover where they got the ball on the 10-yard line. There was the big kick return and the kick out of bounds that started them on the 40. I think I read they had 3 touchdown drives, less than 100 total yards for all those drives combined. Yeah. So we were winning 10-0, and then we gave them 3 short fields, and you just can't do that. So certainly some mistakes. It'll be interesting to see how Matt LaFleur responds.
Yeah.
It's his first loss. It's this team's first loss. How do they respond? I think overall in the locker room, there wasn't a lot of concern. They said, hey, we lost a good game. It's Thursday night.
Yeah.
And we got a big game against the Cowboys on deck. So this is interesting. So we have a little break, but Matt LaFleur actually, he gave the coaches Saturday and Sunday off. Kind of treated it like a bye. Sometimes after these losses, they're in looking at the film. They took Friday as a staff to review everything, but then Saturday and Sunday, they took a total break. No one in the building. Matt LaFleur said he came in just to look at something. There was something on his mind bugging him. But that, for the most part, it was a true mini bye week. The Cowboys play Sunday night in New Orleans. Now, there's no Drew Brees, But Teddy Bridgewater in New Orleans on Sunday night, you know, that's an advantage. Rest is an advantage. We have an extra, you know, Friday, Saturday, and all day Sunday. We have an extra 3 days of rest before facing a good Cowboys team.
Yeah, I think that's going to really help re-energize our defense. We've had a lot of time on the field, the defense did against Denver. So we'll see them nice and recovered, and hopefully Jamal Williams back, hopefully, you know, Devontae doing good. But yeah, I guess we'll find out when that time comes.
Yeah, and we'll probably get an early report on Monday, but we probably won't know till Wednesday or Thursday, you know, the status of these players. Well, anyway, thanks for tuning in. Again, my name is Eric Cohen, and this is Zach Hahn, and this is Run the Table. We'll be back in a couple of days with another episode where we'll look ahead to the Dallas Cowboys, maybe talk about what matchups we think the Packers will exploit, what our strategy would be going into the game, update you on those injuries, and keep you updated with all things Packers. Once again, I'm Eric, and this is Zach. Thanks for tuning in.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
The Bears still suck. The Bears still suck. The Bears still suck. The Bears still suck.